Good evening.
My name is Jared Gonzalez.
And my name is Grant Simon.
And it is our honor to be running as your Directors of Financial Affairs.
Before we get into the presentation, I want to share a couple qualifications for why we are running for this position.
Throughout high school, I served as class treasurer, where I learned how important transparency, organization, and accountability are when managing funds. Here at UC Merced, I currently serve as Iota Beta's treasurer in association with Theta Tau, where I've helped manage budgets, coordinated with peers, and hosted multiple fundraisers on and off campus.
I currently serve as the Iota Beta president in association with Theta Tau. I'm also the jazz conductor for the Bobcat Band. And in high school, I was a swim captain where I motivated teams, communicated clearly, and led by example.
In terms of experience, we've already proven that we could deliver results. Grant and I hosted multiple fundraisers and helped generate over $1,000 in revenue in less than a month. We both have experience working through OSI, CAD Life, and utilizing campus resources. We also use spreadsheets and financial tracking systems to maintain organization and transparency with funds.
So our plan is simple. It is increasing fundraising, maintaining transparency, and to increase the connection opportunities for our members to interact with one another and our community. We plan on communicating early with FG Academic, PCN, and Social to ensure that funding needs are met and are dealt with ahead of time before rushing to last minute. We've noticed that large events like Friendship Games, Barrio, and PCN cause a lot of hardship, heartache, and financial stress for the cabinet and its members. And this past year, there were only about 7 fundraisers, and 2 of them were on campus, despite the on-campus fundraisers being more profitable.
Our solution is action-based. We aim to host 6 to 8 fundraisers per semester, prioritizing on-campus events, while also building partnerships with off-campus restaurants and organizations like Buso to expand networks. As co-financial officers, we believe that 2 leaders means faster communication and stronger execution. We already work together successfully on another executive board, and we want to bring that same teamwork, trust, and efficiency back here at PAA. Our execution plan includes creating a clear fundraising timeline from September through May, diversifying fundraising ideas through tournaments, food events, collaborations, social media initiatives, and also ensuring that funds are allocated strategically to support major cultural and community events like FG, Barrio, and PCN.
At the end of the day, our mission is not just to raise money. Our mission is to be more creative and more frequent with our fundraisers, to reduce financial stress, to create more opportunities for our members to interact with one another, and to strengthen the overall Filipino community on campus. Thank you for your time, and we hope we've earned your trust and your vote. Maraming salamat.
Thank you, you two. At this time, we're going to ask your opposition, Alan and Roy, to be escorted out of the room. I motion to go into questions. First questions are reserved for the current chair that holds the Director of Financial Affairs, and Ling has 2 questions for you two tonight. The first is that the Director of Financial Affairs position is one of PAA's most essential yet challenging roles to fill, given its repetitive and logistical nature. So what is your guys' vision for making this role dynamic and sustainable, and how will you two ensure that the systems you build outlast your term?
So what we plan to do is, like we said in our speech, we want to host at least 6 to 8 fundraisers, which there's only 7 this year. So that's something we do want to change. We also do want to change how the fundraisers are. So we want to split it up like tournaments, events, food, and we also want to do one catered specifically towards Puso, which we will do more research on, and we do want to focus on that fundraiser as a different philanthropic event, which is just catered towards that specific area.
And one thing that we can do to ensure that what we do this upcoming semester lasts beyond our time would be documenting our process, making like a Google slide and something we can share to the next successor.
Thank you, you two. Link's second question is that in recent years, ASUCM has given us less money to fund and plan our larger scale events, just like Barrio and PCN. These events, as you two know, are central to the organization's history and campus community. So with limited budget for next year and potentially in the coming years, how will you two sustain the scale and impact of these events? And how will you advocate for the organization's financial needs in the coming years?
So what I've seen this year was that there were very little on-campus fundraisers, and when we fundraised money for Pirata, we did a lot of on-campus fundraisers, which were the money makers of our goal to build like our project. So that's what we're going to focus on because they do make us the most money. Can you elaborate more on the second question again?
With the limited budget and potentially in the coming years, how will you sustain the scale and impact of these events? So you expanded on that with the fundraisers, and how will you advocate for the organization's financial needs in the coming years?
Sorry, can you repeat that one more time?
How will you plan to advocate for the organization's financial needs in the coming years? So how will you contest to ASUCM or alumni that we need more funds for the organization?
I do know from working with SJI that there is a funding request that we could submit for if we do not meet like the right amount of funds from our fundraisers, if ASUCM doesn't provide the funds for us.
And if that is also the case, we would try to host another fundraiser to try to compensate for that.
Good job, you guys, on your speech. It was very informative. I did want to ask, how successful were your fundraisers in your previous positions as financial chairs in data town?
Our fundraisers were actually very profitable. We hosted 7 fundraisers in the last one, and 5 of them raised over 150, and in those 5, 3 of them raised over 250, or 300 to be more precise.
And then one thing that we've noticed is that a really profitable fundraiser is actually a food fundraiser, and both me and Jared have food handling licenses.
We also do want to focus on like more Filipino foods. Like I made turon for one of the fundraisers. I want to do like halo-halo and adobo as well.
Sorry. Second, I had the same question, but since you were financial chairs in another, I guess, org, why did you switch to PA? Like, what does it mean to you guys?
Well, for me, PA was the first club that I joined, and I really resonated with it, especially with doing combi, getting picked up and picking up. I also did run for social last year, but I didn't get it. So I do have that passion for PA still, and it still resonates with me. I just wanted to join Denata to further my professional development.
And for me, I love working with my community, and I want to give as much as I possibly can.
Hello, congrats to both of you guys. So our dues are the majority of what funds our events. However, some people might not be too inclined in joining because of our high prices. So what is your approach to making our dues more affordable?
Thank you for that question. So that's the whole reason why we want to host more fundraisers, because we realize that dues are expensive, especially with FG. And we also are planning on having merch, because I know like previously, or like way long ago, there was like shirts and stuff that we used to sell. So we could also sell that for money. Yeah.
Hey guys, you guys did a really good job in your speech. It was well thought out and well put. Seeing as both of you guys are heavily involved in other leadership roles that you guys mentioned in your speech, how do you guys plan to balance out duties between this cabinet position that you guys are running for and the other commitments you have outside of this club?
So one thing that really helps with time management for me is I use Google Calendar as well as like a to-do list and a weekly checklist. So what I would do is I have everything in my Google Calendar and I would just strictly stick to it.
I also do that as well. I use Google Calendar and Outlook to keep myself organized and maintain my time well. I also have been very ahead of my work with school, so that's something to keep noted to.
Hello. Very great speech, guys. I have a question. It has to do with an event that happened during FG39 last year. I know Grant was not a part of that, but I will explain the situation. How would you manage any issues with unpreventable things such as the hotel situation like we had in FG39? So for the situation, we arrived at the hotel we were supposed to be at, and they said they didn't have our reservation. So we had to relocate to another hotel and take funds from cabinet members that were present and use that funds to get more hotel rooms for everyone. And it was much more expensive than the more affordable option we had previously. So how would you guys manage any issues?
So what you're saying is you had to pay double because the first hotel didn't allow you to stay, and you never got the refund for that.
Yeah. Well, this was for last year.
Okay. Can you repeat it in a shorter way? Sorry.
Okay. So we went to FG last year in Fullerton, and we arrived at the hotel, and they told us they didn't have our reservation. And so we had to go to a different hotel and pay a lot more from cabinet's pockets, and to get everybody rooms.
So one thing that we can do is if we were to make a reservation a week before or 2 weeks, we would again call just to double check that we have the reservation. If it was worst case scenario where we would be dipping into other people's funds, with the fundraising, if we have leftovers from our events, then that would get into a pool, and then we could pull from that pool.
Yeah, I think more specifically, if we do need, we could have an emergency fund. Say 10% of all of our fundraisers we could put into an emergency fund for something that happened like this.
We can just project.
In the case you have an event with the association Day of Tao and along with Pa'a, let's say you guys are hosting one event for Pa'a and one event for Iota Data, right? How would you time manage that?
I think since
That's one of the reasons why having two of us is so important, is that we could split it up where I could be allocated to Iota Beta and then Jared could take Paul.
Paul Cabinet has a history of reimbursement, which is when Paul Cabinet pays for things, and then we fill out forms, go through a process, and we get the money back from the club and the school. But this is heavily discouraged. If members continue this behavior, what would you do?
Can I ask what they're being reimbursed for?
They're paying for things out of pocket, just for events and things like that. And also, I motion for more time.
Second.
does Paul have do you know, or can you elaborate on their whole banking system or how they store funds so we can kind of answer that question?
So what I'm just asking is, let's say I want something from a store and I pay for that with my own money, and then I want that money back. That's a reimbursement. How would you handle this? Because this is heavily discouraged because of how long it takes to process reimbursements. So how would you handle it?
One thing that we can do to like mitigate that kind of those actions is to, if you were to buy something, you'd have to let the financial shares know prior to that, and then we could decide whether or not it's a viable purchase, or if we could do it through the PAW funds.
I also think that planning early and just being ahead on time is something that we're both good at. So being like, I don't want us to like be last minute and like have you guys go out on your own to get that. I want to be like on top of things.
Going back to your last minute ideas, because I've been an event coordinator, and sometimes when we're planning events, we have last minute ambitions, last minute ideas. So that's kind of where reimbursements come into play. Again, how would you handle that? You as financial should support the cabinet members' ambitions and goals for the event, but sometimes those ambitions are last minute.
I think since we're the financial chairs, I feel like we would be more responsible on that. So we could go ourselves to go get that, and we could wait through that process just because we are keeping track of the money and we're like sure that we're like confident that we know what's happening with all the funds.
Lori?
Okay, my question for you. So given that you're both not as active as other members or current cabinet members, I was just curious what your motivation was in coming back and running for a cabinet position.
I know it doesn't look like I'm not active because I don't participate in like CMCEs, but I do love PAA. I love participating in Compi. I do love talking to all the members, getting to know the new auditing class. Like I said before, I did run last year for social, so this year made me want to come back and run for another position.
And I, as well as Jared, love the community that PAA represents. And I am in the shadows, and I do not, as of now, show up to Gen meets as much, but because of my obligations, next year should clear up, so I should be more free next semester.
So why should we vote for you and not your opposition?
I think you should vote for us because we do have more experience. We do have the leadership and initiative to work as financial chairs, especially working with a big group of cabinet, because we did work with a group of 14 members for our process for data talk, and it was very successful. We actually ended up breaking the goal of raising the most money for a potential class, which is something that to take note of.
I completely agree with you.
In the event that one of you burn out from overworking yourselves in both orgs, how will you deal with it or help each other out?
So with burnout, we could set up like a mental health check-in with one another. And then if our tasks become too out of hand, we could try to allocate it to the other person.
Personally for me, my first 2 years I didn't really have any obligations, or I wasn't involved as much. But starting my 3rd year, I did pick up 2 jobs.
I motion for more time.
I also joined another organization, and my grades were also one of the best I've ever seen. So I feel like picking up another responsibility isn't something that would necessarily burn me out.
Me as well. I'm not super susceptible to burnout as well.
Jared, can you identify a strength in Grant that makes you look forward to working with him, and then a weakness in Grant as well that you are going to help alleviate? And Brand, the same goes for you. Could you identify a strength in Jared that you're looking forward to working with, and then a weakness you're willing to compensate?
There are two strengths that I see in Grant that I do love, which is why I do love working with him. First one is communication. He communicates very fast. We're always sending each other text messages back and forth on planning and what we could do for our other projects aside. And he also is very good at taking initiative. His leadership is very great, which is why I do want him to be my coach. A weakness specifically is that he's not too familiar with off-campus organizations and like planning. So that's where I want to step in and work primarily with the off-campus fundraisers, like just going out to Scoops, Chipotle, like the food places. I also do want to connect to Jeff's Cuisine in Atwater, just to see if we can do fundraisers over there as well.
Some strengths that I see in Jared are his communication skills and his passion for raising money. Raising over $1,000 in less than a month is really hard, and keeping track of all those funds is actually really impressive. One thing that I feel like I could help Jared with, being a co, is maybe like management, like task management.
What do you hope to accomplish by the end of your term?
So we hope to accomplish at least 6 to 8, but we want to strive to have 8 fundraisers, and then to create enough funds to where we can have the emergency funds we need to bring dip into it, and to support our events like PCN, Barrio, and UG.
To elaborate more onto that, I want to focus on cheaper FG dues. I know that a lot of people struggle to pay with FG dues. I also want to focus on having merch for our club. I feel like that is something we would all appreciate, as well as not being on a strict budget. I feel like I feel like Lepa was definitely on a strict budget, and as well as Key Grant. I want to try to have enough funds for that, so that our schools can be paid for.
Are there any other questions for Lance and Jared? Lana?
Oh, okay, wait, how would you handle what you guys would like perceive as like frivolous money like requests?
Can you elaborate on frivolous?
Like silly requests, like things that you don't think need to be spent money on. Yeah, wait, Grant's gonna go last.
To elaborate, going back to the previous topic of reimbursements, let's say someone needs additional plates for an upcoming event. We consider that frivolous, or let's say they need a few more decorations and it's $10. Would you consider that frivolous, or how do you look at that?
So we can do like a necessity check, where if you, like say you said plates is a necessity, so if you didn't have enough plates for everybody, then that's where you would want to go out. Decorations, that's like teetering on the line of like, maybe it's not super important, but it would be decided between the two of us.
And for decorations, I feel like if we are planning on like an event, we could do a lot more research on finding which